Oh, we're live on. Hello. Thank you for joining me. My name is Christy Hodges, and I am the founder and executive director of the nonprofit OCD Gamechangers. I'm also the author of Pure OCD, yay, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And I'm a certified peer support specialist here in the state of Colorado, supporting people worldwide with OCD and also connecting them to referrals for OCD therapists. And today we're doing our fireside chat, which I'll tell you what that is in just a minute. And I'm so excited to have advocate, author, superstar, Alison Dotson. We've known each other for so long. So good to see you.
Good to see
I know. So introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Alison Dotson. What'd you call me? Something extraordinaire?
Advocate, author, and superstar extraordinaire.
I made that up. I put words in your mouth. Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm the author of Being Me with OCD, How I Learned to Obsess Less and Live My Life. It's a nonfiction kind of self-help / memoir for teens with OCD. I do some advocacy here and there. I have a blog, AlisonDotson.com, where I do a lot of Q&As with people in our community, which I love. I love doing it. I get to meet virtually usually so many people and hear so many stories. And it's just a great way to learn more about OCD and give people an opportunity, if they haven't advocated before, to kind of dip their toe into it. And if they have, then it's just, for me, a great honor to have them add their advocacy to my blog. So yeah, that's me. And I'm in Minnesota, if you can't tell by my accent.
I was on with Corey and another lady, Diane, that they do a podcast, and I think she's originally from Canada, and you know how Corey's always there, and every time she said a boot, I was just like, I feel like my face always went, a boot.
It's obviously a boat, duh.
Look, there's Neil. Yay! He says we can tell that you're in Minnesota.
Thanks.
Oh, Neil.
Oh, should I be looking at the comments?
Oh, you can. You don't have to. They're just there. Anyway, Alison and I met years and years ago I had the ancient podcast, The Stigma of Mental Illness Radio. That was my first advocacy project other than a blog. And I found Alison, I think it was after the first Atlanta conference. I don't think we met. Thank you, Neil. I don't think we met at that conference, but I found you, and then I had you on the show, and I remember thinking, oh my God, we're like kindred spirits.
I know, we had so many obsessions in common.
I know. And then we went to the LA conference, and that was the first time we met and we spoke. We were the last panel of the whole.
On a Sunday at like 11:30 a.m. People had their suitcases in there.
I know. I think I remember Jeff Bell like rolling up with a suitcase, like waving and leaving.
They were practically lining up for their flight in the room.
But that was good. And then we went on and did Chicago, where we talked about intrusive thoughts and really kind of got down and dirty about
dirty.
Shinnok, whatever. However, I'm sorry, Sean, if you're on here, I can't. I can't pronounce your name. But he was on the panel. It's so amazing. So we've had a lot of good times. Not to mention, you are part of our Game Changer family. You were part of the first year. It was such an amazing time, and Alison really busted out on the stage, like out of her shell for real.
I did. And I stepped off and cried for like half an hour.
I know. And Neil and I were backstage, and you were just like, I don't know if I said too much. And I'm like, you didn't. Because I'm like,
I think I felt it.
No, it was great. So thank you for being here. Just, you're just a really special friend to me. Just love you to death and all the stuff that you do. So Fireside Chats, if you're here for the first time, or if you're continuing to watch, Fireside Chats was something I came up with when COVID first started, to help meet the community where we're at in this time where nobody really knows how to feel. Nobody knows how they should be feeling. And I was in the same boat and thought, I need to get people on this podcast or on this video series to help us really help meet us where we're at and know that wherever and whatever we're experiencing, it's okay. And it's been really beneficial and an eye-opener to me each week watching how how the videos change, how people's attitudes are changing, and depending on what state you are and depending on what's going on in your life, how it really is impacting you. So there's really no agenda today, so sit back and relax, and we are going to talk about COVID in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So I was in Minnesota like 3 years ago.
Yes.
Oh,
God.
I'm going to tell you, I probably never told you this, but I was not excited about coming to Minnesota. I'm sorry, but I just heard like Minnesota isn't that great. I'm sorry for all the Minnesotans out there, but I just heard that like it's cold. It's like -40 half the time.
I am
all this stuff. I know. And then she invites me to come talk at their October OCD Awareness Week event. And I was like, okay, I can go then. It won't be like -80 every day. Oh my God. As the plane is flying in, I became a believer. I was like, oh my God, the lakes. I think I was texting you on the plane, like, I can't believe how many lakes there are. And they were beautiful. There were colors everywhere. And I just thought, this place is really special. And oh my God, I had the wild rice soup. I had it 5 times while I was there. It quickly became like one of my favorite things ever. But that was a wonderful time. So now I'm a big fan of Minnesota, and I plan on coming back hopefully later this year if things open up. And there.
Hopefully. I know. I think it's up to our governor, who is awesome. And I work for the state of Minnesota, so I really have to be like, we're good. Yeah, that was so funny. So wild rice is, I mean, I don't know if it's a staple in Minnesota, but it's definitely something that we serve at like most restaurants, and it's a Native American specialty, and there's a lot to look into. But you ordered like chicken and wild rice, and you're just like, I thought it was going to be like chicken on a plate with some rice. And it was a soup, so good. Creamy, and you loved it.
I had both cream and broth.
Yeah.
I had literally had it like 4 or 5 times. So
I know.
I was only there for 3 days.
I felt really like good about that. Like I introduced you to something really, really homegrown, so to speak. Yeah.
Really the other thing about Minnesota, being downtown in Minneapolis, is that I just could not believe that there were all these
skyways
bridges that connect all the buildings. I was down the street, and I think I told you, I was like, I don't understand why this city isn't crowded. Like, I'm walking down the street, there's nobody here. It felt like probably what COVID feels like. We're all, oh no, they're up in the sky in the bridges. And I thought, wait, what? And it's for the -80
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely better for those super cool days. In the summer, you want to walk outside, but yeah, it's nice. Because then you can still do stuff. You can still like go get something for lunch or run an errand or something if you work downtown and you don't get cold. You actually sometimes get too hot. So because you like put your parka on for like the little bit you had to be outside, and then you're in these like heated hamster wheel things or tunnels. Don't let that keep you from coming.
How is COVID in Minnesota, and what's the experience been like for you?
I would say, like, as far as Minnesota goes, like, I really trust our governor. He holds a live press conference every day at 2 and just I don't watch it every single day because it's kind of like, I feel like I'll hear if something huge changes. So yeah, we've had a stay-at-home order, which doesn't mean we can never leave. It means that you can go grocery shopping. You can do if you're an essential worker, of course, you go to work. So it's not super restricted. We're lucky to have lots of lakes and trails and everything. So as long as people are really keeping their distance and not crowding any one trail, it's not forbidden to go out and do anything. And I think we have a culture in Minnesota of following the rules a lot. I think it's like a Norwegian heritage kind of thing. So people have been pretty good about it. And I do think I'm lucky to live somewhere where, like I think about New York City, if you live in a tiny apartment, And if you go outside and someone else goes, I mean, it can quickly become a crowded situation. So I'm glad that I have like a backyard and a couple parks by me. So that's been good. And I just feel really like we have a leader in our governor. He's a former educator. So when he speaks, he uses PowerPoints and has graphics and everything and kind of explains everything. And he's just super encouraging. So that's nice. But yeah, I guess I've been doing okay with it. As far as OCD goes, it's not a big change for me. I think the fact that, you know, we've talked about this a lot, but when you have OCD and you've gone through treatment and you're trying to live with it day to day, you learn to accept uncertainty. That's the whole point. And that makes everything in life easier when you can do that. It's not just learning to accept the uncertainty of your particular obsessions or your intrusive thoughts. It's like once you learn those skills for intrusive thoughts, it ends up spreading to everything else. So I am on some level, I'm okay with the uncertainty of it. I don't know when things are going to change, and I don't have a ton of anxiety around that. I think for me, it has been the isolation that's had the bigger impact. And I think this week, for some reason, I kind of hit a brick wall with that. Because I live alone. I'm lucky I have my 2 dogs, but they don't talk. And they actually cause a lot of problems. So I don't know. I'm an introvert and I'm an anxious person. So like the idea of not leaving the house is actually not a big deal, but that doesn't mean I never left the house 2 months before this. And, you know, seeing a friend, going to dinner, going to a movie, and like having a big hug when we see each other and when we say goodbye, like I'm not having any of that. And I think you don't realize how big or how important touch is, and just like having that connection of like sitting on the couch with someone and talking in person until you can't have it. So I think like this week was hard. And I think even some days, like hour to hour or day to day, I might be like, I'm fine today. Who cares? I'll go out in the backyard and sit in my hammock or whatever. And then another day I'm just bereft almost. Like I am lonely. I haven't seen my parents for 2 months. And I think that's where my OCD does come in, is fear and guilt, worrying that I'll get someone sick. Like I feel fine, but you keep hearing like, well, you don't know, you might not have symptoms, and you could be one of those asymptomatic people and you go out and you cough on somebody or whatever. I don't want to get anyone else sick. I think it's so much of the responsibility of it. And in a selfish way, not wanting to like be responsible for getting a bunch of people sick. I would feel like such a dumbass. Like, oh, sorry, my bad. Like, I just really needed some Moose Tracks ice cream. So yeah, that's been hard. I think I do leave the house. I go to the grocery store. I do what I need to do, but there is a fear back there, and I don't have contamination fears as a rule. But I am worrying about, am I wearing my mask right? Am I 6 feet away from people?
Well, that
what if I
definitely
need to
falls into the harm piece.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Which, that's just about, I've had a couple people talk about the actual contamination stuff with clients in the last 2 months, but it's mainly been the harm stuff. It's mainly what am I doing that's going to harm someone else or kill someone else, and then not knowing that. And that rabbit hole is deep.
Yeah, you're right. It really, I mean, the contamination part isn't even really the core of it. It's more, what would contamination mean that I could do to someone else? So I guess I've been following the rules in that way and isolating myself. And I feel selfish wanting to do something. I feel selfish if it's like, oh, I really want to see my nephews, but I'm like, should I not ask to come and see them? And because I don't know, it's a lot of heightened responsibility, which I'm used to. I'm used to that idea of personal responsibility and making mistakes and the guilt about that. But yeah, that's been rough.
So a good, I think, direction for the conversation right now would be, you know, we talked a lot as leading into this. People are starting to look like they are having contamination compulsions, yada, yada, yada. So then it's like, oh, look, the world understands what it's like to have OCD. Well, they don't understand when it comes to the type of OCD that we have, which is intrusive thoughts with minimal rituals. The community name, of course, is pure OCD. It typically is going to be around harm, health, sexual, violent, all these and lovely intrusive thoughts that we live with. But let's chat really quick about if this is something that we've experienced and other people are experiencing. I was telling you before we went live, I had the OCD Gamechangers, which Brian, yay! Brian was there. Hey, and hey, everybody. Hey, Nancy. Hey, Darcy. I had OCD Gamechangers right before, and then there's Margaret, who was also at Gamechangers. Woohoo! So I was worried for the first 2 weeks after I found out that this was really serious, that OCD Gamechanger, that event would be responsible for the deaths of millions in Denver or whatever else, and they were going to trace it back to the irony of the OCD event that actually killed a bunch of people. But I quickly got through that. I actually did ERP on it, because it was plaguing me the first week and a half. And then I just thought, oh, whatever, you know, I guess if we kill a bunch of people, we do. It was everybody's choice to come, which is, you know, the basis of ERP here.
I kind of roped into it. No, I'm just kidding.
But how weird is it, Allison, that in our therapy, so if you're watching and you don't know what exposure response prevention or learning how to manage OCD is, you know, in that it is not arguing back with your brain. Okay. So if someone has harm fears, so I'm going to harm another person, I'm going to kill my husband, I'm going to molest a child, I'm going to, you know, rape my brother or sister. If people are having these awful intrusive thoughts that they're terrified of, the response to help ease the anxiety is to not argue back. Okay. So we're not going to argue back. So that usually means, oh, okay, well, I guess I am a murderer. Maybe I am a pedophile. Maybe I am this, which is not proclaiming anything, but it's just stopping the argument.
Right.
However, in these times, when you're driving down the road and you see these big billboards that say, stay home, save a life.
Right.
You know, or when you see people's social media posts that are saying, well, I, you know, wear an N95 mask or whatever because I'm not selfish, because I don't want to kill people.
Right.
When we were taught on how to manage OCD is to be like, yeah, maybe I killed 1,000 people today, and I'm all right with it. I can still sleep.
Yeah.
And what is this? How this is what's so difficult. And I would love to talk about it.
It is. I think that's a really great point, and something I've struggled with is a lot of times our intrusive thoughts are completely irrational. There's no basis for it. It's like we had some sort of trigger, like we watched a movie once and it triggered us, and it's like, now I'm a child molester. Like, where did that come from? There's no basis in reality other than, like you said, accepting that, like, well, maybe I would do something. I just have to live my life with that uncertainty that, like, maybe I would do something and that would suck, but I'll deal with it if it happens. But this is real. I mean, it's amorphous, and we don't know exactly, like, everything's changing every day about, like, the facts about COVID, and like, oh, now if your toes look weird, you might have COVID. You know, it's like, what?
I'm in trouble.
Not like that. Like, really weird.
No, really.
But yeah, there is an illness. There is this epidemic. It's contagious. You can get it, and you can get it from someone. I mean, it's actually happening, and our president is talking about it every day, and it's everywhere you go. So it's, in some ways, it's validating, like, okay, well, I know this is real, but your mind still kind of goes around it in that uncertain way of, can I still say, oh, well, I'll do my best. Or,
Yes.
I think what I'm trying to do for myself is just follow the guidelines as they are currently stated. And yes, sometimes things will change, like things changed with the masks and whatever. But now, they say like, wear a cloth mask when you go out and cover your nose and whatever. I'm doing my best. And I think that's all we can do is follow it the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And so one thing I have seen a lot in the past couple months, like few months before like there was a stay-at-home order and everything, is people online being like, now that I'm washing my hands all the time, like, can anyone recommend like a really good balm? Like my hands are bleeding. I'm like, who told you to wash your hands for 2 hours a day in bleach? What are you doing? No one told you to do that. Like, it was just like all of a sudden people were just like, people who don't have OCD were just, they took the 20-second sing happy birthday twice recommendation to the extreme. And I'm sitting here like, wait, why are you doing that? No one told you to do that. And I mean, I think that it does shed some light on what we go through of, well, I can't just follow what they say. They must have meant this. And if 20 seconds is good, then 40 seconds must be better and whatever. I think that people are experiencing that on some level. But what was your question?
Well, exactly what we're talking about. And I think that it segues into I wonder what OCD treatment is going to feel like for people after this.
Yep.
When, it's this, I have an irrational fear of AIDS, or I have an irrational fear of this. And then you're going to therapy and a therapist is like, oh, okay, we'll go lick a doorknob or go do this with the,
right,
toilet seat, which I wouldn't, sorry, but I wouldn't.
I know.
But, what is that going to look like when, okay, it's really only serious if it's COVID?
Right.
Because AIDS isn't serious, and this isn't serious, and this isn't serious, but it's only okay when everybody thinks it's a threat. And that's what really just pokes me with a needle. And not angry, probably, because I like being angry at times, but more so this break from, well, why now all of a sudden is it okay to do all of this stuff? Why? Chris Tronson came on and had so many excellent points about going out and seeing people doing these weird things when he was the one doing those things at 3 a.m. and knowing, and that was the time he went to the store and he's looking like the crazy person. And now everybody's doing it. And if you're not doing it, you look like the crazy person. And how that feels moving forward, or how we can say, oh, well, I'm not an OCD therapist, but if I'm an OCD therapist and I was wiping down my groceries,
right.
But you can't when it comes to AIDS or vomit, because that's irrational. Mm-hmm. Oh, is it? Oh,
right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it has to be that you can do a level of things, but you need to stop it. Like maybe to you, stopping at 20 seconds of hand washing terrifies you. And so that's what you have to do. And it's not like the really extreme compulsions, but yeah, it's really hard to wrap your mind around. Mm-hmm. I wonder, are people having kind of crises right now, like almost existential, or like, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, that would be interesting to hear.
And I think like, I know that we're not old enough per se to remember exactly the AIDS epidemic when it first came out, but like people.
I think I am.
Yeah. Because Ryan White I'm 41. Yeah. So maybe, but we were little.
It was like 80s and 90s, definitely in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was the big kind of boom of it.
I feel like I'm starting to understand more, because we look back at it now and we're like, how could we have said that Ryan White couldn't go to school with other kids? Didn't they know that it wasn't spread through whatever? And they didn't. And it's like, you see people panicking, or not panicking, but, going to extreme measures and doing all these things to stop this spread. And I mean, will we look at this in 10 years and be like, wow, we were you really overreacted on that one. I don't know. But I guess I have a little more compassion now, like looking back on other illnesses and stuff like that, where I'm like, oh yeah, it is kind of scary when something is brand new and you don't know exactly what's right. And one day they say, don't wear a mask. It's actually worse to wear a mask. And then like the next day they're like, no, do wear a mask. And you see all these graphics of like,
I know.
He's wearing a mask. You don't wear a mask. It's 80%. I mean, I'm like reading these math things like, stop throwing numbers my way.
Well, for me, I think, and this just hit me recently because I was in the, I was in the grocery store and they're wiping down the carts. And okay, here we go. I'm just going to talk about how bad my OCD gets sometimes. And I don't do ERP for it, but I have the fear of vomit. Everybody knows that if they know me. And I usually pull the cart by the front because I don't want to touch the handle, because I'm thinking, oh my God, think about how many germs are there. And I'm going to get them on my hands. It's going to transfer here. And then I'm going to get the norovirus, the big virus that comes through in the winter, which definitely got superseded by the COVID. But so when the guy I was waiting and he's wiping it down, I'm like, that's really nice of you. Thank you. And he's like, oh, we're supposed to now. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so I grabbed the cart and I'm like, well, I guess I can touch the handle, and I'm pushing my cart through, which was weird and interesting, but also like seeing people wipe down surfaces, and you don't see anybody like picking grapes out of the grapes and eating them like they normally do, because it's disgusting. Yes, we covered this with Chris Tronson's show. People do it and it's nasty. But, then going up and all of a sudden there's this plate when I'm at the cashier and the cashier's wiping down the belts before my groceries even come over. And I'm like, cool, like everybody's doing my compulsions for me.
I was gonna say. You don't have to. You're like, whew, that feels like, great. I didn't even have to lift
VIP. Yeah. But either way, it also, though, I got in the car and I sat there for a few minutes and I thought, well, how, not that, and so I think someone said this to me the other day, I can't remember, that like, well, throwing up doesn't kill you. Well, I don't give a shit what throwing up does. It feels like it's going to kill me. It feels like the most terrifying thing. Like, I'm more afraid of vomiting than getting COVID and dying. Like, that's how real it can be for me. So if you don't understand that, email me and I'll explain it to you. If you think I'm being frivolous and stupid, not frivolous. If you think I'm being stupid, I will email you and explain to you that statement, because it's true to me. The same way that people, when they have intrusive thoughts, I'm more afraid that I'm going to kill my husband than of getting COVID and dying. Like, as stupid as that sounds, it's part of our illness. But I sat in the car and I just was like, so the norovirus that spreads like wildfire, and people post all over social media about their vomiting for 12 hours and how it made them feel. I always love that. But I shouldn't be doing these precautions for that. Right. But now I should be doing it for this, because everybody thinks, and I get it, people are dying, but come on.
Right. Yeah. So I've noticed that everyone seems to be talking about OCD now, but they're still not getting it right. Obviously, because they're like, yeah, it's great to have OCD. Isn't it great that like you've been washing your hands this whole time and that was the right thing all along? But when it comes down to it, they don't understand the irrational fears that aren't rooted in reality. And so, even if I were to say like, okay, imagine how you feel knowing that you could get sick from something and it's uncertain and you don't know what to do and you don't know what regulations to follow. That's how I feel, but it's about sexual intrusive thoughts. There's no guarantee that the person will be like, oh, I understand your correlation. They'll say, yeah, but that's not real. This is real, so they're getting a taste of it, but they can still justify stuff with it having facts. It's a fact-based thing, which makes sense. But the anxiety that they're feeling, like we feel that a lot, but it's like we can't explain it to other people because it does sound not crazy, but yeah, it probably does sound crazy to people.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe after this, it won't.
I mean, I hope so.
In a way to explain, like, well, you felt the need to wipe down your groceries before they came, before you brought them into the house. I think that's extreme. And even as someone with OCD, I do. If you do it, I'm not shaming you at all. Like, do what you need to do.
Right.
But like, I'm not going to do that. And I don't think it's not recommended at all. But I could say something to someone and they could go, that's right. Well, I just felt like at the time, that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And so that way it maybe opens up a little bit more of a dialogue about, well, imagine feeling that way every day, but about whether you're a pedophile.
Right.
Or whether you're gay or straight or bi or trans.
Yeah. And on top of that, you can't point to an article or a statistic and say, see, there's some evidence behind it. It really is just like, I don't know why I think it, but the feeling is so strong that there must be some truth to it. And like, that's hard to explain to people.
Well, and you can't point to it either of saying, well, look at Susie next door. She's doing the same things. You can't do that with violent, sexual, intrusive thoughts.
Right.
But you can do it with COVID.
You're not all in it together when it comes to that. Yeah. It's not a global thing.
Well, that would be an interesting plague.
I'd watch that movie. Except there's no violence. It's just people sitting going, That's going to be kind of boring.
The amount of knives that would be in the all of the trash cans. Oh my God.
I couldn't commit an act of violence if I wanted to. I had everything.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
The sexual and violent intrusive thoughts zombie apocalypse.
Which is 100% people not going to the grocery store.
Oh my God.
Sorry, if we're laughing, it's because we've experienced it. Not to make fun of people.
I know. Okay. So anyway, so emotionally, like moving forward, like you were talking about, kind of week by week, and this last week has been really tough for you. And you and I talked beforehand, and I think I mentioned this earlier when I was with Ben on Tuesday, is I really have seen an uptick in emails from people. I can barely keep up. So if you're watching this and you're like, why hasn't she answered my email? I just can't keep up right now. So my apologies. I'm going to try to catch up this weekend. But there really seems to be this uptick this week and last week of people feeling, I don't know if it's just the isolation or the, oh my God, when is this really going to end? Because it really was this novelty for the first few weeks. It was up and down, but it also was, oh man, like this will be up on April 27th and yada, yada, yada. I'll go get my restaurant. I'll go sit at my bar. I'll go, to Target and do whatever. Or mom and pop. And that's not happening now. So what has it been feeling like for you?
I'm trying to figure out what it is about the last week or past couple weeks that have made me so sad. And I don't know if it really is just like you can only go so long without like the support of a person sitting next to you. Because it's like, I still have love. I can still talk to people on the phone or, do FaceTime and stuff like that. It's not like I don't have my family anymore, my friends, but I'm not seeing them. And I almost wonder, I think it is not knowing like, okay, our stay-at-home order was extended to May 18th. Then will it be extended again? I'd almost rather know, what, it's going to be the whole summer. Just prepare yourself now. Yeah, it's like the ripping the Band-Aid thing. Like, just quit pulling on it. And I know that we need the information and like there isn't going to be a decision like that probably, but I don't know. I'm so used to thinking of spring as a renewal. And metaphorically as well as literally what is happening with nature. And I just don't feel that like optimism I usually feel at this time of year. I love seeing like my flowers bud and being like, wow, there's like something about living in Minnesota that I feel like is just such a good metaphor for life. Of like
Are you saying this because of what I said about Minnesota earlier?
No.
Okay.
I'm sure you probably experienced it in Colorado or, Colorado? But living anywhere with seasons, but maybe particularly like somewhere like Minnesota where the winters are so harsh and it is like, it's hard to get through and it's like, why do I live here? This is the worst. And I mean, it really, truly can be bad. And then spring comes and it's like this whole new feeling of like, I did it. It almost makes you feel strong. And I think like I like having that on a seasonal basis. And, of course I've had that in my life with many different things. I've had it with OCD where it's like, getting the diagnosis was like the dawn of a new day and that's beautiful and exciting. And I think I just like having that. And right now it's like, but nothing's changed. I can be outside, but with who? It's not this like feeling of like, yay, we're all coming out of our like little homes and like now we're going on walks and picnics and going to the lake and stuff. It's like, well, no, who knows when we're going to see each other again. There isn't that same feeling. And I think I need
that you really like, that you look forward to, that you're skipping over it.
Yes. And I can't believe it's May. I mean, I think that's another thing. Like I would be interested to know like how other people feel of just, where has time gone? What does time mean? I don't know from day to day, is it Tuesday or Wednesday? And then I think, oh, why does it matter? And in some ways, that's a wonderful way to look at life, right? To just be like, I'm not bound by time. I'm not bound by schedule. But really, I think we need that. I'm reading a book right now, and actually they were just talking about how if you're in prison or like, this was an older book, so it was like talking about like if you're lost at sea or something, you still track the days. It's like, you're like, okay, I've been here 156 days. And it's like, well, why are you tracking that? It doesn't matter. You're never getting out or, it doesn't, what does that mean? And it's like, it could mean, okay, well, I've survived for 156 days or whatever. And it's like, just kind of this, I think that everybody needs to have a semblance of routine and normalcy, at least in America. I know like other cultures are different, but I don't have that. Everything blends.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Michelle commented while you were saying that, someone told me Happy Mother's Day a couple of days ago, and I didn't even have any idea it's this weekend.
Happy Mother's Day. Yeah. I know it was my dad's birthday last week, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, it's my dad's birthday. And May Day didn't mean anything.
I don't know what day that is anyway.
It's May 1st.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't always mean anything, but in Minneapolis, we actually usually have this really big parade. It's a May Day parade.
Oh, and they didn't have it.
Well, you know what? Actually, this is weird because last year was actually probably going to be the last year anyway.
Oh.
So okay. It would have been weird anyway. But basically, like I have a friend who has a brunch every year. She has people to her house, and it's like, there isn't that. Yeah, Mother's Day, my birthday's in a couple weeks, Memorial Day. There are all these things that kind of like mark the passage of time.
Yes.
And things to celebrate. Yes, milestones and reasons to get together with people. Mm-hmm. And now instead of having the reason to get together, it's a reminder of we can't get together. Yes.
The last time everybody could get together was when we were all together, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, if there are any OCD Game Changer volunteers, just so you know, your thank you notes are upstairs, because I haven't sent them. And it's not because I don't want to send them. They're all written out and ready to go. It's just this. I usually recover by May after Game Changers. It's this because it was so big and it was so, and then I take the month of March into April to just like rest and do nothing. And then I start building again. And once May comes, I get really excited about, okay, what's the next thing we do? Mm-hmm. I didn't even get that this year.
Yeah.
It was very much everyone left, and it was Stu was here for 2 days. And so we were like, oh, good event. Yeah. And then I was like, bye, Stu. And then it's like, I turned around and looked at the TV and I was like, oh,
what is going on?
I need to go home.
Yeah.
I can't leave the house.
Yeah.
And so it's the disruption of I mean, I don't know. I guess it's not bad, I guess, to be disruptive of normalcy and to change up routine. But I will say for someone with anxiety and OCD, I don't like it. And I don't want that. I mean, I guess we can't say that because that's what ERP is about. Like, you never know. And
right.
Whenever a pandemic could come along and screw everything up.
That is true. But I think part of dealing with anxiety and depression is setting a schedule or setting something, and we can't always follow it for whatever reason. It's like, I just really can't get out of bed, but we need to have reasons to get out of bed and do things and, get through the day. So it is hard to not have those little things to work toward.
Especially for someone that does live like where you live. Mm-hmm. When the winters get hard, things are dark, and then but you know what? I just need to hang on until April 15th, or like in mountain towns, it was always like the ski season ends April 15th, around there. Sometimes people were glad about that because they needed the break. Sometimes people were sad about it because they still wanted to ski. This year that got taken away, a month too. And so, it's having that, okay, I just need to make it until here. Right. That to me is what's so scary for people right now.
Yep. What is here? When is that time? So I guess we have to set them for ourselves and say, okay, I made it to here and now I'll have to make it until here. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I will say I generally don't feel good about myself when I haven't done anything productive. And I don't think it needs to be about, people are saying like, oh, you should write a novel. And it's like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. That's too much. And maybe someone will, but I need to do something. So maybe it's laundry. Maybe it's one load of laundry. Maybe it's working on my blog or getting something done. I like to physically write things out too on paper, like in a notebook. Little check boxes, and it could be like a small thing, and then I check it off and I'm like, yes, score. I did that. Sometimes I've already done it, but I write it down just so I can cross it out. So I think that I'm trying to balance that, like trying to balance what? That's normal.
I'm so not judging you. I mean, maybe a little.
I'm sure someone can relate out there. But I think like probably a lot of us are trying to struggle like this balance between be productive, get something done. Whew, that feels good. And giving yourself permission to say like, this is a wild time. No one knows what's going on. It's okay to be scared and it's okay to watch TV all day. And when it's a TV all day, embrace it.
Do it upright. Do it upright.
Try not to feel guilty. And that's so hard. But just to give yourself permission to do what feels right in the moment. Maybe in the moment it is getting something done and, getting it off of your to-do list. And maybe in the moment it's like, I want a bunch of ice cream. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
I think this is a really important point and something that I've been noticing lately in some of my really good friends who are working from home. The loss of energy people are experiencing from what's going on and what's going on in the world. I can attest to this 100%. My world has not changed that much. I work from home anyway. I'm taking the same amount of clients that I normally would. I go to the same stores, I go to the same places to run and hike and, other than like not being able to go to my gym. I literally have the same routine every week and I don't care if that's bad. I do it anyway. But the level of, my advocacy has stepped up doing videos and stuff like that, making more posts, things of that nature, but just the general uncertainty and social fucking media.
Yes.
This week, especially conspiracy this, and then people who are like, everybody who believes conspiracy are idiots. And then the conspiracy are like, everybody that doesn't believe it are idiots. And it's just so disgustingly exhausting. I found myself midweek just, I usually wake up and I'll scroll on social media like until I kind of wake up and get coffee and do stuff. And it has started my day off horrible because I literally, it's things about people that I never knew that they were even capable of shaming other people about. You know, we don't have the answers. Okay. So I'm just going to be blunt as I can. Nobody fucking knows anything right now. We're all walking through this, trying to figure out. And here's the thing about uncertainty. We want to know the answer. We want to know that it's all going to be okay. We want to know who's responsible for it, why we're in it, because someone needs to pay or whatever. But you know what? We ain't going to know that. So it's, you know, everybody is just tearing people apart. And yeah, there's propaganda and whatever else all over. But I almost the other day wrote on social media, like, get off and go outside and touch the grass. Go grab some dirt and rocks and just let them flood through your fingers. Like, stop. STAHP. Stop. Because to me, that is what's so exhausting. That's what's exhausting me the most is I used to love going on to social media, not in a political year, but just being able to be like, funny this, funny that. Like, and people, I feel like that's a big thing I've been seeing lately is people want to know, and they want to know who's responsible, and they want to know what it's going to be like. Well, you know what? Welcome to living with OCD. Right. You ain't going to know. So get comfortable in the uncertainty. Maybe that's what you post.
Probably the biggest part of what they can relate to is the uncertainty and like wanting to know something that you don't have information about. So I guess thinking about, because I get overwhelmed by social media too. Is that a good thing to do where, you know, it's just like, I'm only going to look at it from 11 a.m. to 12 in the morning, you know, 1 hour, and then I'll look again after work and once before bedtime. Like, do you think that would be helpful to set limits on it?
I mean, that's helped
a notification.
That's helped me because working at home, you know, I have my iPad over here, I have my phone over here, so it's dinging here and there. It's like, oh, okay, there's this. But in the last few weeks, I've noticed. I mean, I think a good thing to do is just notice the correlation with how you're feeling about everything in relation to how much you're on social media.
Yeah.
Because it's really driving negativity right now. It's really driving conspiracy, whether you believe it or not. And I'm not shaming either way. Like, people have a right to want to explore it. But when you get caught up in the arguments because there is no common ground. There's no common ground. Someone's going to think they're right, and then someone's going to think they're wrong. So nobody's going to win. It is just like the amygdala. Like, social media is the amygdala. You get on and argue. It's like the amygdala just posts shit. You just argue, and the amygdala is always going to have the last word. You have to decide when not to post the last comment. Because even like a week later, the amygdala will be like, yeah, but.
I know. I've actually gotten better. I'm not perfect, but I've gotten better at not commenting on things because I get pulled into stuff.
I know, we both do. And have before together.
So I've gotten a little bit better because it's better for my mental health.
Yeah.
Not to try to argue with somebody and I can't change their mind. It's rare that you do change someone's mind, and wouldn't that be great if talking about it did that?
Or, I mean, why do we even want to change people's minds? Social media isn't a breeding ground for empathy.
No.
I feel a certain way about the pandemic because of my life experiences. You feel a certain way because of your life experiences. Why would I go on and say, I need you to feel this way, Alison, because you're not right. It would be more like, do you want to hear where I'm coming from? And then you having a greater understanding about why people may feel that way. And social media is the opposite of that. It does not breed empathy.
No, it doesn't. It's very black and white. And people name call. I mean, they think that that's okay to, you know, you wouldn't do that to someone's face, but you do it in a comment, and it's never a good feeling.
So Molly's commenting some stuff, and she says she turns off some of her social media notifications.
Oh, that's good.
So that could be even I think your suggestion is great. It's which is, I mean, that's like ERP anyway. I'm going to only Google for an hour a day at this time, and you don't do it no matter what. And so it's, waking up and maybe committing, look, I see the correlation that my mood takes a turn when I'm on social media and I get sucked in for an hour. Well, then maybe I'll open up social media from 11 to 11:30 and then open it up again at night when I'm winding down at 6 for an hour, and just see if you can gain a little bit more control. And like Molly was saying, like maybe even just turning off some notifications or opting out of groups or unfollowing people, for God's sake.
Yes. Yeah, kind of tailoring, because if it brings you joy because of certain friends or certain groups, then maybe try to tailor it to those friends and those groups. Because it's like, you know what, I need to hear from this person, or I get a lot of support from this group that I'm in, and I don't know what I would do without it right now. Like, just try to stick to that. I think that's hard, to try to narrow everything down. But, and then there's the whole thing. I mean, I think it's just like, maybe I just don't totally understand how things work. Because I'm like, why am I seeing this on my feed when I don't follow this? And it's like someone you follow did it, and then you're like, well, now I saw that, and I never would have wanted to see that. So, yeah, that's hard. I'm sure I've done that for other people.
I know. I'm always worried about that. I'm like, okay, who just saw this comment? But I mean, I think, again, just to emphasize, I think this is a really good point to probably start wrapping up, is it's really important that you do what you need to do to take care of yourself during this time. And just to emphasize what I was saying earlier, I've noticed, even though my life hasn't changed significantly, I am way busier than I was, which fine. But my energy levels are like this compared to my normal everyday energy, or my normal driving down the road and looking at the mountains and the cows and the horses as I'm driving home. Like that, my favorite stretch of road, if I'm driving down and feeling like, oh, I love living here, or I love my life, or I love what I do, now it's just this doom and loss of energy. And I just want to get home and turn the TV on and be away from everything. I mean, my point is, I want you to know you're not alone. I've seen a lot of that this week and last week, just a loss of energy, just overtired, really feeling scared about, first of all, not knowing when this is going to end. And I know that seems stupid, but it has been 2 months, and having to adjust to the new normal, all of a sudden feeling like I've lost what it was like to feel that. So I'm with you. And whatever you need to do, I know there's also this, people get really worried about defriending people and unfollowing or whatever. You don't want to hurt people's feelings. You know what? Screw that. Like right now, you have to be the judge of the toxicity. You have to be the judge, because I'm going to give you permission, because every person is going through this differently. And one person's way of working through this, which isn't wrong, maybe to scream from the mountaintops all the things that cause this, because they're scared and they want to know the answers. And maybe yours is not wanting to see that and needing to be protected and only really want to see butterflies and, photos of mountains and landscapes. Then tailor what you need to see to how you need to get through. There's no shame in that. As long as we're not shaming other people for how they're going through it, please make what you're going through as comfortable as you can at this time, because it's really important to be able to preserve your own energy to get through, especially these next couple weeks that seem to be dragging on for a lot of us. What are your final thoughts, Allison?
Agreed. I know you were probably talking about screaming from the mountaintop as like sharing on social media, but I was just texting a friend yesterday, and he wrote it was Brian. Hi, Brian, if you're still watching. Brian! He was like, how are you today? And I was like, I just cried. Like, I had just cried, and it felt good. I'd been wanting to cry. You know, when you have that feeling, it's like in the back of your throat almost, or it's just like you just feel verklempt, and it's like you want to. And I'm like, it wasn't coming. And I knew it would be a relief just to let it happen. So I cried and that felt good. But I said, I want to scream, but I like grew up Norwegian Lutheran. And I think I'd be like, ah. Like I can't even scream right. Like I just want to be like, just, like ball up my fists and like, because that's how I feel. But it wouldn't be satisfying because I'd be like, but having said that, yes, I agree 100% with giving yourself permission to do what you need to do. And I mean, if you can limit the risky behavior as much as possible, just because, we're going to do better if we're being kind to ourselves for the most part. I think that's great. The thing is, pandemic or no pandemic, we need to live our lives the way we see fit. It's like you need to follow your values, whatever those are, and who cares what other people think? And I know that,
yes,
of course I do. Like everyone cares to a certain extent. Like it would be not, like what kind of society would we live in if we didn't care at all? But like it's okay to eat your Cheetos and do whatever. And if someone's telling you like, well, no, you have to have a green smoothie, otherwise you're not going to get through the pandemic. If you get, it's like, just let people do whatever. Refrain from judging other people, and that includes yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're going to work on that scream. Next time you come out and stay at my house.
Ooh. Can we go to a mountaintop?
We're going to. I already know the one.
Okay. Is it low? I don't want to go too far.
You'll see. Okay. Well, thank you for everyone who joined us today. It was fun being able to interact a little bit. I know we don't get to all the comments, but Thomas, thank you for being here. Michelle, Molly, all of you. Thank you so much for the support and just for walking through this whole situation with us. It's so nice to have all of you here each time we do these fireside chats. And Alison, thank you.
Thank you.
I love connecting with you. I just love you anyway. And
I love you.
So fun to be able to hang out and connect. I'm hoping in the next 6 months or so, it will be in Minnesota.
Yeah. I know. I hope so too.
Try to make that happen. But anyway, so thank you, Alison.
Thank
you. All you do. And if you want to purchase Alison's book, that would be Being Me with OCD. You can purchase that at Amazon, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then find her at AlisonDotson.com. This is our COVID-19 Fireside Chats concluding the week of May 5th. It's been a pleasure being here with Ben as well as Alison. We look forward to seeing you next week. We have Catherine Benfield of the UK on Tuesday. It's going to be so much fun having her on. She's so great talking about postpartum OCD. Then we have Mike Hetty coming out as well. He and I have never really hung out before, so that'll always be fun. I always love meeting people and finding out more about them. So check out OCD Gamechangers Facebook page for more information about when they will be on. It'll be Tuesday and Friday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Yes, it is the weekend. It's Friday, okay? Like pour your cocktail or pour your coffee and get you some Cheetos and some ice cream. Curl up, watch some movies, or do whatever you need to do without any guilt. Yes. Much love to all of you. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next week.